Okay, so I will be giving a content or warning or disclaimer. This episode discusses the disappearance of a minor and an unresolved criminal investigation. No graphic violence is described. On June 22nd, 1983, a 15-year-old girl disappeared in Rome. There was no struggle, no witnesses who saw anything suspicious, no confirmed sightings after that day, but this was not an ordinary missing persons case because the girl lived inside Vatican City. Her name was Emanuela Orlandi, and more than 40 years later, no one has been held responsible for her disappearance. This is not just a mystery, it's a case tangled in politics, power, and silence. Okay, so Emanuela Orlandi was born in 1968 and raised inside Vatican City. Her father worked for the Vatican prefecture of the papal household, which meant her family lived within the Vatican walls, which is an extremely rare situation. She was described as quiet, kind, and musical. She studied the flute. She was close with her family, and there was nothing in her life that suggested she was at risk. Right? So she was just a normal 15-year-old girl. The only difference was that she lived inside the Vatican City. And the Vatican City has like a whole curfew for people who do live in there. So at a certain time, you couldn't come in or out.
I didn't even know people could live in the Vatican City.
Which is why it's rare.
Oh, okay.
Like, you have to be really into the religion and or in that world in order to be living there.
Okay.
Which is like a whole city in its own, which is why it's called the Vatican City. But It's within Rome. So, again, once curfew hits and those walls close, you can't come in or out. So, like, us as tourists, we can go to Rome, we can visit the Vatican City, we can go inside the churches and see all that, you know, all the nice things it has and everything that it contains.
Yeah.
But you cannot be caught inside, because if you are caught inside, then therefore you cannot come out. So you have to leave before curfew.
It's like a lockdown.
Right.
Okay.
Right. So, which I find kind of weird. You know? Like, why?
For an entire city to be locked down? It's extremely weird.
It's city within a city.
Right.
So it's like, why? It's like saying you're locking down Rome.
Mm-hmm.
You can't come in or out after a certain time in Rome. But it's not. It's just that Vatican City within Rome that you're like, I don't understand, like, why you have to be coming in and out.
Yeah.
Right? But, okay. So, let's go to June 22nd, 1983. On Wednesday, June 22nd, 1983, Emanuela left the Vatican City in the afternoon to attend a music lesson at the Tommaso Ludovico de Vittoria Music School in Rome. So she would attend a music school in Rome outside of the Vatican City. And it was a regular routine for her, and she had done this many times before. So this was not out of the ordinary. Okay? Her lesson ended around 7 p.m., but she never returned home. Okay? So she would leave around 7. She should be back. She never came home. So around 6:45 p.m., just before her lesson ended, Manuela made a phone call to her sister. And during that call, she mentioned something important. She said a man had approached her near the music school and offered her a job, handing out flyers for a cosmetics company. She sounded uncertain but not frightened. This phone call is the last confirmed contact anyone had with her. After that, Emanuela vanished. So if a random man comes up to me in the street asking me to do this for him, I'm going to politely decline. I would decline. Right. But this was her last confirmed contact, and it was before her lesson ended. Her lesson usually ends at 7, right? So that's kind of weird. Maybe she let out early, I want to say. If it ends at 7. No?
Do they ever leave people out early?
I don't know. Have you not gone to school? And sometimes they've been like, 15 minutes, goodbye.
Never.
That's crazy.
Never. It's when the timer says. Never.
It's like when the teachers go, I dismiss you, not the clock.
Yeah, not the bell. Yeah, not the one that they set up.
Mm-hmm. Well, I, as a sister, would also tell her, like, absolutely not. Like, get home. You know, you have curfew. Like, why would you randomly do this? Right? I mean, I don't know. A lot of questions to be answered here already. Okay, so when Emanuela didn't come home, her family initially assumed that there had been a delay. Traffic or missed bus, something ordinary, right? Sometimes you're a little late because things keep you from it, nothing crazy.
Right.
But as the night went on, concern turned into panic because obviously the night went on and she's not home. And by the next day, the Vatican and the Italian authorities were alerted. This was no longer a missing teenager. This was a Vatican citizen who had disappeared in Rome. So, understanding this, I guess Vatican citizens had not higher authority. I want to say maybe it's higher status
Than regular citizens in Rome?
Yes,
Yeah.
maybe. Because, I mean, not only were the Italian authorities aware or told, also the Vatican.
Right.
So, like, the church was also told. So it had to have some type of higher standard to them.
Right. But the church is the government in the Vatican City.
Right. But because it's within Rome, they also had to tell the Italian authorities.
Right.
So, this is where they start to put posters up across the city within the Vatican and outside.
Mm-hmm.
They police interviewed classmates, teachers, and family members, but no credible sightings emerged. Right, like nothing came up. And then the phone calls began. In the weeks following her disappearance, multiple anonymous callers contacted the Orlandi family and authorities. So, like, random calls were coming into the household within the Vatican. Some claimed to have information. Some claimed Emanuela was alive. Others made strange cryptic statements. One caller, though, known as the American, claimed Emanuela was being held as leverage connected to the attempted assassination of the Pope John Paul II in 1981. That claim changed everything. So this random phone call comes in to an American. They say they have her, and they're using her as leverage. Automatically, because it's within the Vatican, I have questions. Right? You're talking about now, why? Why is this a thing?
Yeah.
Why is she being held as leverage if she's just a regular Vatican City citizen?
What do you mean by leverage? Like, it's either we give you, but you give us the Pope?
Right, because it was attempted and he never died. Right? Like, he didn't kill him.
Right.
So when it happened, I guess they were like, you know, give us the Pope or give us a sighting or like talking with the Pope and we'll give her back. But again, how is she equal to
the Pope?
The Pope.
Yeah.
You know, I guess it would say, well, if you care so much about your Vatican citizens, then you will give us what we want and save her.
Right.
Again, it changed everything at the end of the day when it came to the authorities being involved, whether they were Vatican authorities or Italian authorities, because now we're talking about maybe ransom, right?
Ooh, yeah.
So, over the decades, the case has been reopened multiple times. There have been secret recordings, anonymous letters, tip-offs that led nowhere, exhumations of graves, Vatican prosecutors reopening files, and each time hope resurfaced, and each time answers fell short. Emanuela's family, especially her brother, never stopped pushing. They accused institutions of withholding information, the Vatican. They demanded transparency. They refused to let the case fade. Their persistence is the reason this disappearance is still discussed today. Most missing people cases grow cold because there are no leads. This one's different because this case is filled with leads, too many of them. Too many contradictions, too many powerful interests. Someone knows what happened to Emanuela Orlandi, but the question is not if the truth exists, it's where and who is protecting it. Now, going back to the exhumation of graves, if I'm not mistaken, I think not too long ago, they actually exhumed a grave within the Vatican and they found a pile of bones. I'm not exactly sure what happened with that. I have to research it, but when you find a pile of bones and you're also saying that some of them are like fresh, you know, like not bones that have been there for tons and tons of years.
I don't think it's hers.
Right. Huh?
I don't think it's hers then.
I don't think it's hers. No. It's like a pile of bones, but within the top pile.
It's fresh?
It's fresh. Like.
Oh, so for example, you.
So like right.
It's like one grave, and every time somebody dies, they just throw that person in the same
so
grave.
Then the bones just pile up, and I'm assuming the ones at the bottom are the oldest. So that was being searched because that was a newfound thing, and it's within the Vatican, so people are, I guess, kind of reopening again the case in their in a sense and relating it to maybe, you know.
Did they get to the bottom?
I'm not exactly sure. I just said I had to research it. But,
my fault.
But going into that, I just remembered that, you know how churches have like choirs and things like that?
Yeah.
She was part of that. She was part of the choir, and it makes you kind of go back and think about all of those allegations that popes and priests and pastors have of. You get what I'm trying to.
I know exactly.
Put down?
I know what you're saying.
Right, so it makes you want to think, well, maybe they're trying to cover something up.
Right.
Like she's completely disappeared. Nobody knows where she is. You know, we don't even know if maybe she made curfew. Like she came within the city, and before she got home, she was abducted.
Yeah. Like
it's just a mystery, you know. But putting everything together, we can only theorize what could have happened.
Right.
Okay, and because this case is like you have more questions than answers. There are theories, and there's a couple of them. Okay, the theory number one is the political hostage theory, right? What we were talking about. She was being held for ransom or being held as leverage for something.
Yeah.
Right. And this theory emerges early and loudly. In the weeks after Emanuela vanished, anonymous callers contacted the Orlandi family, like we said, and the press. One caller, known as the American, claims Emanuela had been abducted to pressure the Vatican into helping secure the release of Mehmet Ali Agha. Don't know if I pronounced that right. This man was the one who attempted to assassinate Pope John Paul II in 1981. So they had him hostage. Not hostage, but they had him
as a prisoner.
And they said, we will give you back Emanuela if you leave him free.
A trade.
Right, we'll trade. Why was this the major theory? Because the Cold War was still going during this time. Agha had alleged connections to Eastern Bloc intelligence, and the Vatican was a powerful political player within it. Okay, so Emanuela would not have been a random victim, but a bargaining chip. That's number one. But here's where that theory falls apart. Despite years of investigation, no physical evidence has ever linked Emanuela to Agha or to a hostage exchange. Meaning you can't link them to be equal leverage. Like she's kind of random.
Yeah.
But not random because she's in the Vatican City.
Yeah, but if you're going to do a trade, you wouldn't do a trade for a guy who tried to assassinate the Pope and trade him for a random 15-year-old girl.
That's what I'm trying to say. Where, okay, we can kind of understand the theory of, you know, a Vatican citizen for an American citizen, let's say.
Right.
But when you look into it, you're talking about a random 15-year-old girl who was just in middle school playing the flute, where this guy tried to assassinate the Pope.
Exactly.
Right? Like, there is no leverage. Right? Another reason why this falls apart, there was no credible witnesses confirmed her detention. So, like, no one saw her get abducted, like, off the street. Nobody saw anything weird. It was through a payphone. She paid through a payphone.
Wasn't it like daylight?
And it was in broad daylight. So, you know, I'm assuming it's broad daylight. We're talking about 6:45 p.m. Could be, yeah, like dusk.
Yeah.
You know, still daylight outside, so you would still be very visible.
Yeah.
In the street. Okay, I mean, how else are you going to put it? There was no intelligence agency ever substantiated the claim. So like the CIA, FBI, no intelligence agency was like, yep, that's us, and we are holding her for, you know, as leverage for my man over here.
Okay.
Right? Because the agency would have been like, yeah, it's us. You know, why would they stay so covert if, you know, we're out here actually calling and saying, oh, we have her. You know, like it would have been told out in the open, at least to the specific authorities that were involved.
Yeah, I don't think the FBI would help.
I don't mean FBI, but I mean like intelligent agencies. That's what I meant.
Yeah, I get you.
I didn't mean like specific. After CIA, that's the only thing I thought of. Okay. So with all of this, the theory still remains very dramatic, right? Because that's the first thing you want to think about because of the time that this was happening in.
Right.
But still unproven. That's why it's a theory, right? Theory number 2. This is one of the ones that kind of have been staying strong. They've been very persistent, but it's very uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. Okay. In the early 1980s, the Vatican Bank was embroiled. Did I say that right? The Vatican Bank was embroiled in scandal. Its ties to its Italian financier Roberto Calvi and alleged connections to organized crime drew intense scrutiny. Mm. Okay, so now we're talking about corruption within
the Vatican.
With the Vatican, yes. Mm. With the Vatican and the Italian bank. Yeah, Italian financier Roberto Calvi. Some investigations believe Emanuela may have been abducted to pressure the Vatican over money, specifically missing funds tied to criminal organizations. Now you have to understand why she's leverage, right? This is another case of maybe having her over leverage. Her family is very, very, very involved with the Vatican, right? She's in the choir. Her family's probably going there. You know, the family lives in there. So you're talking about a very handful. It's a handful of families that live within the Vatican.
Right.
And then clearly you're going to know who they are.
Right.
It's like we live in 10 houses right here and that's it. Right. That's basically how we're talking about. A small population of the Vatican City.
Okay.
They are very involved.
What is the population of the Vatican City?
People, okay.
Uh-huh. Go on.
People know who they are. That's what I'm trying to say, right?
They know,
their
they
family are very involved. If you're very involved within that community, people are going to know who they are, who you are. So I want to say that she did have some type of importance to her. Maybe her family had more importance. But she was a young 15-year-old child that was out in the open by herself and was easy to capture. That's how I see it.
You ready?
What's the population?
The population of the Vatican City is between 764 to 880 residents.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So they kind of all know each other. That's nothing. Right. So, you're talking about how many people are in a choir in a church. 20 at most. Google that number too.
How many people?
The Vatican choir, or I don't know what their specific name for their singers are.
About 50.
Okay, so my point in telling you that she is in the choir is because it shows that they were involved within there, on top of the fact that the population is very small. Mm-hmm. So you can start to understand why she is of importance. Right. And why the Vatican should care. Because it's one of their rare citizens, like that rarity of you being able to live within the Vatican City.
Right.
That already puts you at a higher pedestal. Now you're in the choir. Now you're involved. Now you're even higher. So that's how that goes. Okay. Again, some investigators believe that Emanuela may have been abducted to pressure the Vatican over money, specifically missing funds tied to criminal organization. So now the Vatican is owing money to Italian financier Roberto Calvi. And now they took her as leverage. Either you pay me or we take her. Or we don't give her back or, kill her. Right? That was one of the theories. Now, the reason why this theory persists is because multiple mob informants later claimed knowledge of the case. So, they know what's going on, and you're from the mob. Right? Some said that Emanuela was used to send a message to the Vatican. Right?
Ooh, okay.
So they were never planning on giving her back. It was more so as, you don't pay us, something we can do. We're going to do it again.
Right.
And then the Vatican's reluctance to fully open its archives fueled suspicion.
Yeah. But the mob doesn't send a message like that. The mob would send the message. If you're going to send the message, you would kill her, but you would dump her or put her in the Vatican so that they could see the message.
Right. Well, maybe. How do I put this? Maybe. I mean, it's the mob that knew about it, not that they were the mob.
Right.
If that makes sense.
Right.
But maybe they didn't do that because of whatever reason they might have had to do things differently. What really did cause suspicion for the Vatican was that when they were asked to open their archives for like their information for specific reasons within the investigation, they were adamantly like saying no. So if you have nothing to hide, you're not saying no.
Right.
You're just saying, here, use whatever you can. And they were adamantly like, no. So already there, like, I'm going to think, okay, maybe you do have something that you're trying to hide. Maybe you do have something going on with money, you know, and very corrupt going on within the Vatican.
Right.
Right? And you just don't want them to know, because then that illusion of what the Vatican is going to be crumbling down. And that's not good for your business. Right? Like,
you think the Vatican is a business?
Well, when you're having tourism coming in, you don't think that they're like, you know, having shops and stuff? Of course it is. Because remember, it is a business. The city is a business. You have tourists coming in.
Right.
You have local shops inside.
Right.
You have stores. You have things like that. People are buying. You know, you live in Rome and you have like the store inside the Vatican City. You go inside and you come out. The only issue is you cannot be caught outside or inside within curfew. You know, whichever side you belong to, you better be there.
Oh, okay.
You know, like if you live outside of the Vatican City, you will be stuck inside if you are found inside within those walls. They will not open it until daytime the next day.
No hotels inside?
No, you cannot live.
So where do you sleep if you're stuck inside?
Well, I don't know how that works. That's my understanding. I might be wrong, but
that's crazy. Like, oh, I'm late. Oh my God.
It's a church. You know, they should help, right?
Sure.
Anyways. So, many of the claims have surfaced for years or decades and later on. Most cases from individuals seeking leniency or attention, and again, no physical evidence has ever confirmed her whereabouts. This theory survives largely because of what hasn't been disclosed. So the reason why this theory persists so long, has been persisting for so long, is because the Vatican doesn't close it down. You know, they don't go, here's all my financial receipts. Here's everything you want to see. Here are my archives.
Right.
Leave me alone.
Yeah.
You know, they don't say that. So it's like, well, then you're hiding something and it's true. You know, that's it. That's where that theory stops there and why it persists. Another theory, the third theory, okay, which is the most controversial theory. And talking about this entire case makes me feel like somebody's going to bust down through the door. And like, you know, because it feels so wrong. But the most controversial theory is the one that refuses to fade, and it's the one that I kind of thought of immediately when watching the documentary on Netflix. It suggests that Emanuela's disappearance involved someone with access, protection, or authority connected to the Vatican, followed by a deliberate cover-up. Not necessarily an organized conspiracy, but silent compartmentalization and institutional self-preservation. So, someone within did something to her, and so because they're from the Vatican, they just cover it up.
Like they tried to
maybe
molest her or something, and
then
got out of hand, and then killed her. And the Vatican City, or the people of the Vatican, covered it up. I think that's more. That would more. That's out of the three that you've said, that's the most.
Again, that's the one where I, like myself, came up with immediately after watching the documentary. Why people believe this? Why do I
find out
this?
how accurate you are when you disappear.
It's crazy. Don't be putting that on the energy. the energy out. That's what I'm saying. Like, I feel so wrong talking about it, but it's like, I think this is what happened. So Emanuela lived inside the Vatican City, which is an extremely controlled environment. The Vatican initially handled much of the investigation internally. Okay, so even though Italian authorities were involved, the one who controlled the entire thing was the Vatican, because it was a Vatican citizen.
Right.
And the reason why the Italian authorities were even involved was because she disappeared outside. Okay.
Right. Outside the Vatican City.
Mm-hmm. And so they initially handled much of the investigation internally. Documents, testimonies, and archives have been slow or impossible to access. Right? So if you were the Italian authorities outside, you were getting breadcrumbs of information to be able to hold your own investigation towards it, which is wrong, because they should be working together.
Right.
Because it happened outside.
Correct.
And if I don't know who this girl is, how am I supposed to put it out there? Even if I put up a flyer and I put her name, her age, and where she's from, like, how am I supposed to find witnesses and have access to information if you will not give it to me?
Of course.
Right? So automatically, to me, that was a red flag.
Yep.
Like, why are you not helping the Italian authorities find your own citizen? That's what it looked like to me. Okay. But in recent years, Vatican prosecutors have reopened parts of the case, and Pope Francis authorized limited cooperation. But to critics, it's too little, too late. So even though he decided to cooperate at the end of this investigation, it was already late. Like, people were already like, there's something going on, and you're not helping. It's been days and she's been gone. You know, you have a certain window.
You said Pope Francis?
Pope Francis.
Was that not just the Pope that recently?
Well, remember that this case has been reopened tons of times.
Yeah.
And the only person who's been like willing to open their mouth about it has been Pope Francis. And when was that? Like just the other day, compared to how long this case was.
Yeah.
Which is why it's too late. Because by now, you know, what are the odds that she's alive?
1%.
Exactly. So, too little, too late.
Yeah.
Now I'm going into my last theory. Okay.
Okay.
Theory number 4. This theory is far less sensational and probably the most realistic one. It suggests that Emanuela was targeted by someone outside the Vatican, possibly after being approached for work, and that her case later became entangled in rumors and speculation far beyond its original scope. The theory is often overlooked because it doesn't involve government, mafias, or hidden archives. It doesn't explain the anonymous calls or decade of secrecy. But it does align with how many disappearances actually occur. When I say that she was targeted by someone outside the Vatican, possibly after being approached for work, I mean, like, maybe she was taken, abducted, and she was put into, like, trafficking or sex work. So it wasn't looked at.
Was that common during that time?
Well, yes, because of how many girls were being disappeared. Like, how many girls were disappearing. But it was never looked at that way, which is the most realistic one.
Yeah. If
we're looking at it, right? We're taking away all this glamorous ideas of the mafia and corruption and all this stuff. And it's like, when you don't look at something that way, you will never figure it out whether it was that way or not. You know? So I think that's what happened here, that maybe the investigation wasn't looked at as like a kidnapped child being put into sex trafficking or sex work for someone and like abducted, and it was more like something's going on inside the Vatican.
Yeah.
You know? But then again, if the Vatican would have just helped more, then we would have come to the conclusion that it wasn't you guys. Right. So turning the scope away from you, what could have happened outside? You know, what's going on outside that just decided, like, it just so happened to have happened to somebody inside the Vatican City who was outside of the walls.
Yeah.
You know, so it was never looked at that way. But, you know, maybe it's too late. Maybe it's not. You have a bunch of cases that open up later on and they're solved. We find out who it is.
That's true.
The issue here, right, with this specific theory is that if this was the case, why all the interference? Why the calls? Why the Vatican saying no? You know, why all this back and forth with how many people are being put out there for information, right? This is the issue with this theory. It's the most realistic one, but it's also the one that causes all these questions. Like, why is the mob talking about it? Why is the Vatican not cooperating? Why do we have so many of these questions? Because of people's actions.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I get it.
Because it was just that simple, then people would cooperate.
Right.
And maybe no witnesses, right? Let's say, okay, fine, no witnesses. But why are you not cooperating?
Right.
Why is the mob talking about this case? You know, why is there so much controversy in whether the Vatican was in corruption or not?
There's too many whys.
There's too many
questions.
whys. Too many questions unanswered with... Too many questions with no answers.
Yeah.
And then you want us to believe the most realistic outcome.
Yeah, it's kind of hard.
It's hard to not think of it that way.
Yeah.
So that's my last theory, okay? And what connects them all is that every theory, no matter what, no matter how different, runs into the same wall. There's missing records, contradictory statements, there's silence. Everywhere you go, there's silence. People aren't fully answering anything. Someone knows more than they have ever said, and they haven't come out yet or never will. And the longer this case remains unresolved, the harder it becomes to separate the truth from what's myth, from what's fake. And so, Emanuela Orlandi has been missing since 1983. She has been framed as a hostage, a symbol, a pawn, and a conspiracy. But before any of that, she was a 15-year-old girl who went to a music lesson and never came home. Until the full truth is revealed, every memory remains incomplete, and this case remains open. Thank you for listening.